Welcome to Bookish Talk, the show that encourages bookish readers and empowers inspiring authors. We are so excited that you are here with us today. I'm Paula Shepard, and I am honored to co-host this show with my friend and published author, Devin Galladay. How you doing, Devin?
Working it out. Things are good. It's great to see you this morning.
Oh, it's so good to see you. So I thought I heard rumors that you're working on a new book. Is that true?
Oh yeah, no, I'm deep into it, and it is. I'm actually into the third draft, so I'm closing in on sort of putting my final touches and allowing it to go out into the universe to breathe and receive help, which we're
Oh
going to
my
discuss
gosh.
more.
It sounds like it's going really well then.
Well, listen, writing is a process of infuriation and total joy. So I'm somewhere in between.
Oh, I'm really, really excited about it. I can't wait to hear more. So each week, I don't know if you realize this, Devin, but we choose a different virtual background to inspire reading. And today's background is actually a picture of the Starfield Library in Seoul, South Korea. Believe it or not, this library is actually inside the world's largest underground shopping mall. I mean, this is my favorite place. I can shop and read at the same time. And if that wasn't incredible enough, it is home to nearly 50,000 books and magazines spanning so many genres. And the coolest part, too, is that it glows day and night thanks to the lights from the two-story Athenaeum, and visitors are welcome to relax on plush sofas. So shopping, reading, and laying on a sofa. It sounds like my kind of time. But it's not just about books. The Starfield Library hosts tons of events like author lectures and art exhibitions. I wonder how many books the Starfield Library has that are highlighted on Book Talk, which makes me think, did you do any more research on Book Talk, Devin?
Paula, I totally did.
I figured you did.
So last week, Paula and I were introduced to Book Talk, which is a hashtag that's sort of a go-to for everything content related to books and reading and writing. They offer book reviews and writing tips and plot reenactments of popular novels and all kinds of extras. This is a corner of TikTok which encourages and inspires others to enjoy literature in all of its forms. We visited the Book Talk website, and this is what we found. The Book Talk version of TikTok has brought together the world of new technology, digital and traditional media, and young, beautiful social media influencers, coupled with audiobooks and ebooks instantly available on your phones and tablets. The door of opportunity is wide open if you're a book lover. Hashtag Book Talk is an online community of readers that's carved its niche. And the hashtag has billions of views and climbing from users across the world sharing their favorites. Open quote, enemies to lovers arcs, people of color authors, and even their own writing. Some have joined the book side of TikTok in the hopes of sharing their longtime favorites. Why not show off all of these books I have and have loved and recommend new titles in the hopes of finding some readers like me, says Sydney Blanchard, who has about 120,000 followers on this new platform. Underrepresented authors like Simone Siu, who has about 12,000 followers, made it a personal mission to highlight Asian writers on her account. I would love for more people to read Asian writers, she says, and listen to our stories, noting the sparsity of Asian narratives she read in school. While hashtag Book Talk began as a casual community of readers, paving the way for an enormous phenomenon. Paula, when book talkers share their recommendations, they subsequently widen the market for those books. This has led to reading trends that have curated the hashtag Book Talk canon, such as users posting their sob-inducing reactions to Madeline Miller's Song of Achilles, which recently became a #1 New York Times bestseller exactly a decade after it was first published in 2011. Paula, there's going to be more research. So next week, I'm going to see how bookish readers can join this community.
I was just at a Barnes and Noble for the first time in a really long time last weekend, and there was an entire table filled with books that had been featured on Book Talk. And I was just so thrilled because I didn't know what that was before we started talking about it. So I'm excited to hear everything that you find from your research. But last week, you shared 9 steps to writing and publishing a book and how you can use book collaborations to bridge the gap between the fear of getting started and having a supporting cast behind you. So our co-host, Linda Sunshine West, actually invited 2 of her first author collaboratives to encourage our viewers to write their story. Welcome to the Bookish Talk, Sally Green, Creative Director at Action Takers Publishing, and Andy Nam, Founder and CEO at FOCO Academy.
Hi,
Hello,
everyone.
welcome. So our mission is to encourage our viewers to take the very first steps in writing their story. Can you share with our viewers what inspired you to choose a book collaboration and the title of your chapter, and even maybe what is your message to the reader? Sally, I'd love to hear from you first.
Sure. I've been part of a collaboration book before. My first collaboration was during the COVID lockdown. I decided that I had wanted to become an author for a very long time, and I really didn't have the time or the money to write a full book on my own. And so I wrote a chapter. I got offered the opportunity and wrote a chapter in a book, and it opened doors. It really does open doors. And so I met Linda Sunshine West through that process because she was in the same book with me, and I hired her to help me create a business. And we wound up working together at Action Takers Publishing and developing this whole business of collaboration books and getting authors to each write a chapter, a small chapter in a book to tell your story. And so that's what makes it so much fun. It's just simple. It's easy. You write a chapter, you hand it over, and the company does all the rest. So you're able to get your story out and become a published author quickly and easily. And then, if you want to write your own book later on, then that kind of it kind of sets the stage for that, which I think is a phenomenal first start, especially for people who don't have the resources and don't have the knowledge on how to do it. So my chapter in the book is called Step Away to Wellness. And I talk about my healthcare journey and the things I needed to step away from. I needed to step away from my to-do list and take time to meditate and pray. I needed to step away from toxic people. I needed to step away from social media and the news cycle. So I write about all of those different things in my chapter on the book.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I do think that I've heard from a lot of people who've started with collaborations, and it does feel like dipping your toe in the water, and it kind of opens up the whole can of worms of the possibilities. So thank you so much for sharing that. Andy, my question for you is around our listeners feeling like they need a lot of money. They feel like they need a lot of time or have to have some incredibly traumatic story that they have to share. What obstacles have you overcome to become an author, and who was your supporter?
Yeah, I think it comes down to, when you're talking about a lot of money for publishing a book, and, I've been wanting to publish a book for a long time now, but, looking into it, it seemed very expensive to publish your own book. And, because there's so much involved, the copywriting, the publishing and everything. And, doing a collaboration it just seemed, to make sense for me in this point in time, that I wanted to tell my story out there to inspire and influence as much people as possible, while just writing, like Sally said, a simple chapter where you have other people that's going to inspire people through the book. And I think that's a great way to share your story out there. And, it is very cost effective when you're doing a collaboration with other authors, because everyone's sort of sharing the cost of the book together to get our stories out there, right? So it's a great way for us to get our stories out. And I got a lot of other books in my path down the road, and I think, like Sally says, this is a great way to springboard it off to get it going.
I feel like it's time for me to maybe jump into a collaboration here. You both are really inspiring me. Thank you both, Sally and Andy, for taking the time out to share your journey. How can we support you at Bookish Talk on your book launches?
Well, our Wellness for Winners book launches on February 15th. We're going to be on social media. We're all over LinkedIn. We'll be going live all day with, and we have all 30 authors are going to be interviewed throughout the day. We're going to do 15-minute interviews with each one of them. It's going to be on our YouTube channel and on our Facebook page. So tune in and go to Amazon and buy the book, because it's really inspirational. And we have 30 authors who were writing their stories about their journeys from being, needing to get healthier. And it's not just physical health. We're talking about mental health and spiritual health and emotional health, as well as physical health. These people who have overcome challenges in order to be successful, to be happy, to finally feel well in their lives. So it's a great project. We're so proud of it. It's our first book as Action Takers Publishing with me and Linda. We've done previous books, but this is our first book together as Action Takers Publishing.
Incredible. Andy, how about you? How can we support you in your book launch?
Yeah, so my book is, we launched that a little earlier in the year. Linda helped launch it, and it became a #1 international bestseller on Amazon already. And it was The Fearless Entrepreneurs. So, there are I believe there was 16 authors on there sharing our entrepreneur journey and all the challenges that we had during that journey. And it's a great way to just get people out there that's thinking about starting their own business. And, if they have all these little, I don't know if I can do this, or I have this problem. Well, if you read this book, you're going to find that there may be another entrepreneur that had a similar problem that you have, and they were able to definitely beat it out and, start their business. So definitely, if you haven't bought the book yet, definitely go onto Amazon and support the Fearless Entrepreneurs.
Amazing. This is a great place for everybody to get started. Devin, I'm taking all of the questions because I've been enjoying talking to Sally and Andy. Do you have any questions?
I do, actually. It sounds like between your two books, there were slots for 45 stories, which is incredible, especially if you're a new writer and you want to get started in some way. How did you go about selecting? What were you looking for in individual stories that really inspired you to go, okay, I'm going to pick this person, as opposed to, perhaps many other submissions? How did you cull that together into sort of the perfect group? We can't hear you, Sally.
It's funny because the people just come to us. I mean, we have the idea, like the Fearless Entrepreneurs. We put it out there and said we were looking for entrepreneurs to share their journey with us, and we put it out into our Facebook groups, and I think Linda was on Clubhouse a lot at that time and other places. And then once we got enough interest and people stepped forward, and we would meet with them, or she would meet with them, listen to their story and tell them the process, and see if it was a fit. So, that's kind of the way it works. I mean, it's just the way the process works. But we come up with a theme. We have 3 or 4 books right now in the works, and each one is a different theme. So and then people come to us and say, hey, you know what, that sounds like something I'm interested, or I have a great story. Can I meet with you guys and tell you about it and see if it's a good fit for the book?
And Andy, was there a way that you selected, like the final cut of individuals that you ended up choosing versus people that you had to say no to? Was there a way that worked for you?
You're muted.
I can't hear you, Andy.
Sorry about that. I was one of the authors that was just invited as an entrepreneur. And when I heard about the project, about, authors going on there and sharing their journey on how to start a business, I thought it would be a great opportunity for me to share my journey too. So it was one of the points where I was invited by a book coach friend, and she said, "Hey, I think you'd be great for this book. And why don't you go check it out, talk to Linda and see if you guys are a good fit." And thankfully, Linda was so gracious to include me in her book.
That's incredible. Thank you both for sharing with us today. We appreciate you being here. And when we come back from commercial break, Devin will share 5 ways to choose a book editor. Stay tuned.
Maya Angelou stated, "That life is not measured by the number of breaths we take, but by the moments that take our breath away. Encourage, enlighten, empower."
For me, the joy of being an editor is really being able to feel like I've helped an author in some way. There's definitely a lot of my role that conforms with the common stereotype of an editor, but there's so much more besides that I kind of never would have expected until I got into publishing. The start of the process really is receiving a submission from an agent of an exciting new book. And there's no better feeling than when you read something that you feel is going to be big and that you want to publish, and then feeling that it delivers on the promise of that initial pitch and that I remain as excited throughout. The next part of that process is really helping the author to understand what it feels like to read the book. And if I can effectively enough express that, they will understand that something needs to change, and then it's their creative genius that comes up with those changes. A day in the life of an editor actually can vary a lot. There's quite a lot of time at my computer with emails and communicating with people. There are lots of meetings. A covers meeting where, as the editor, I will be responsible for briefing the designers on the cover for the new book. A big part of the job of an editor is actually a sort of project manager role. So liaising not only with author and agent, but also with all the teams internally within the publishing house. So sales, marketing, publicity, design, really to drive the book through the process. When it's for a book that you're passionate about, which is the lucky position we're in as editors, it's so exciting.
But then sometimes something just flies and you're like, oh, great.
I've always loved reading, so to be able to be a part of the process of that book's creation is something incredibly special and an honour, really.
And we're back.
We are. Welcome back to Bookish Talk. In our Writer's Corner segment, Devin is going to share 5 tips on writing. Or I'm sorry, not writing. I'm so excited about writing. I keep talking about it. It must be our guests inspiring me. So 5 tips on finding a book editor.
Okay, before I get started on the actual list, I just want people to know that, these ideas are meant to get you started. They're not meant to overwhelm, or don't get caught up in so many of the details, because writing should be fun. Telling your story should be inspiring to others and yourself to know that you can do it. So don't get bogged down on any one idea of doing it perfectly or not doing it perfectly. Just do the best you can and know that none of this is etched in stone. However, using an editor almost certainly at some point during the course of your writing journey is going to be absolutely essential. And I will say there's only one person I know during the course of my writing life who I've known who basically was like, I don't need an editor. And then they put out a self-published book and it's terrible. You need other pairs of eyes to kind of help you allow your book to be the absolute best it can be. So that all said, number 1, understand the editing process. The price you're going to pay an editor is going to depend on all kinds of factors, experience and geography, and all kinds of things like that. You may want an editor to proofread your book to catch grammatical errors, or you may want to work with an editor to help overhaul your book from beginning to end. It's a big process. So get familiar with the kind of editing that you need to help you choose the right editor. Typical book editing services are developmental editing, which examines the big picture ideas of your book, the structure of your book. It's heavy editing, and if needed, should occur sort of like probably more in the beginning. In other words, certainly after you've had a first draft, maybe a second draft. Line editing is stylistic editing, which is refines each line for smooth and clear text. Copy editing addresses grammar, word uses, punctuation, while checking for internal consistency of information to be given the reader. And finally, proofreading is the final check for typos, repeated words, spacing, formatting consistency. So it always looks and feels like a book. Number 2, give potential editors a test drive wherever you can. Some writers shop around for an editor by sending them a page from their book and requesting a sample edit. It's a legitimate way to see if an editor has the skills to catch errors and find repetitive word choices and maintain your voice at the same time, which is really important. Just remember, ask questions, get recommendations from other writers. Be clear if you want or need lots of help, or if you're just looking for the bare minimum of editing. Number 3, find an editor in your niche. Whether you're just starting out or you've been writing for some time, it's no secret that the most successful writers specialize in a niche. Why should you do this? Focusing on a niche helps you become an expert within that area. It will help you ask better questions and know where you can find sources and research. The best book editors typically specialize in one of a few niches for similar reasons. A good editor understands the market of the material she or he is working with. They may have contacts that you'll want to know about in the future. And just know that if you're going to trust somebody to make changes to your book, especially for developmental editing, make sure she is experienced within your niche. Number 4, expect book editors to read the fine print. In other words, you want them to be as detailed as possible and to really understand your book. So how do you screen out editors who might not wield a virtual red pen with the chops to catch every typo, grammar problem, style issue, and the like? You could post a job ad for an editor and suddenly screen out applicants that aren't as detail orientated by including some fine print within the description of the job. Make sure you get to make the decision. So make sure that you're on top of this. Number 5, give newbies a chance. After doing your homework, you may find the perfect editor, and you will end up discovering that the person with the most experience, the person with the most rave reviews, also charges the most for their services. If you don't have piles of cash to pay the top-ranked editor for your book, consider giving a newbie a chance. You can find affordable freelance book editors on Freelance Writers Den job board, social media groups for self-publishers, and all kinds of online platforms. Really briefly, this is what I did. I finished my first 2 drafts, which I wrote for me. I then finished the 3rd draft, being very mindful that, the deal that I have with a reader is that if I'm not writing something compelling for you to turn the page, you're not going to turn the page. And then my story gets lost, which I don't want. I don't want somebody to trudge through it. So I have to be mindful that somebody's going to be reading it. Once I said everything that I needed to say, I literally printed out 10 copies of my book. It cost a fortune. I think I went to like a local copy place, printed them all out, and I handed them out to people I found that I knew loved me, but I also knew that they would give me sort of a sharp criticism on what it was that I did and how that I did it. Then what I did was, I listened to the things that made sense. And part of that process is me stepping away from the book itself. In other words, most editing is changing what it is that I wrote and that I wanted to write. So it's really important to be able to step away from that. So when somebody gives you criticism, I can receive it without being offended or upset or hurt or something like that, because the next steps become more important. In other words, once I got the 10 back, and then I made sort of changes that was like, okay, I can go with this. That's when I actually hired an editor. That was somebody who's going to go line by line. That was somebody who was going to say, I think you could take chapter number 6 and make it chapter number 2. And I think that's going to create suspense or drama or something compelling and interesting that will keep the reader engaged and wanting more. Obviously, if you're sitting at home and you're looking at chapter 6, you're like, should I put it to chapter 2? No, I'm just giving you an example. So know that you can move things around and it'll change the vibe. And an experienced editor will know how to tell a story and will know how to tell, more importantly, your story. So know that this is not an overnight process. Know that this is something that you can do little by little.
I love hearing your story, Devin, because I genuinely believe that feedback elevates all of us, and the opportunity for us to get that in our writing. So for instance, with an editor, when we have that flow of thought, often the things that we say don't land the same way as we intended them. And it gives us an opportunity to get a do-over, but in a really powerful way. So I was thinking all of that as you were talking and how important it really is in this process to get that feedback. So thank you for sharing your personal journey is always just so thrilling to me. I love hearing about it. But when we come back from our commercial break, we get the opportunity to meet Deborah A. Lott, editor and writing coach. Stay tuned.
If I was going to grow up, if I was going to stay sane, I would have to learn better ways of handling loss and the fear of loss than the ways my father had taught me. Hi, I'm Deborah Lott, and this is my new tragicomic memoir, Don't Go Crazy Without Me. It's about growing up under the sway of my father, charismatic, eccentric, but also neurotic. He taught me to be afraid of germs, of other children who harbored them, of contamination, of my own dirty hands. You could never wash your hands enough. You could never be sure a waiter in a restaurant had washed his hands at all. I feel like we're all living now in the world I grew up in. My father could also be a lot of fun. Here he is dressed up like little Lord Fauntleroy. And here I am. I was 2.5, probably guarding my teddy bear, which he's borrowed for the occasion. He used to dress up like this for Halloween and Purim, and sometimes just because. He wore this outfit to my 10th birthday party, and things did not go well. Suffice it to say, there was a lot of social distancing on the part of my classmates afterward. One Purim carnival, for the assembly, he dressed me up like him. He put me in one of his white dress shirts, which came down below my knees, and pushed me out onto the stage to recite this poem. I want to be my daddy, a big old fatso man. I want to be my daddy, 'cause I'm his #1 fan. And for a long time, I was. And then, when his mother, my grandmother, died, things took a darker turn. He could not survive her, he said. He would not go on without her. He started taking more and more downers. Then reality began to erode for me too. It started when I couldn't get the image of my grandmother in her coffin out of my head. I devised elaborate rituals to try to ward it off. It didn't end there. To stay sane, I would have to re-examine everything my father had ever taught me. Venturing out into the world helped, with a sexy boy at the drive-in, and as a volunteer in Robert F. Kennedy's presidential campaign. I was there at the Ambassador the night he was assassinated, while my father was locked up in the psych ward. That brought me to a new reckoning. Not everyone grows up with a father like mine. But we've all had parents who've imparted beliefs we've had to examine and re-examine and re-examine again. And I think these days we're all learning, like I learned, that you can't outrun your anxiety. You just have to live side by side with it. So read my book, and we can go a little bit crazy together. And I also want to give a shout out to Paul Lissicki's wonderful new memoir, Later, about coming of age sexually during the AIDS pandemic. And to Diesel Books, thank you. I would have had my launch there, and we'll see you all there again in better times. And to Jenna and Caroline, thank you for a mighty blaze.
Get Don't Go Crazy Without Me, available now wherever books are sold online.
Wow. I have so many questions, but I know we're not doing that right now. Welcome back to Bookish Talk. We're honored to have Deborah A. Lott with us today. Marie and I are going to give her a formal introduction and ask her some empowering questions. And Deborah A. Lott is a writer, an editor, a college instructor. Her creative nonfiction has been published widely. Her work has been thrice named as notable essays of the year. And I must admit, I don't think I've ever said the word thrice out loud. So I really love that. And she's in Best American Essays. And she was thrice nominated for Pushcart Prize. Her book, Don't Go Crazy Without Me, as you just saw the commercial, which, oh my gosh, I'm just so fascinated by her story and how she tells that. And I'm really excited to interview her today. But she has been acclaimed by writers Mark Doty, Abigail Thomas, Paul Lissicki, Karen E. Bender, and Hope Edelman.
Mm-hmm. And that's amazing. I mean, that's not all that she's done. She's also the author of the book In Session, The Bond Between Women and Their Therapist, which was widely praised for its unpredictable look, at boundary and transference dilemma in psychotherapy. So really important subject. Deborah surveyed interviewed several hundred women in gathering the research for that work. And the book continues to be used to train psychotherapists nationwide. And it appears on multiple consumer websites as one of the top books ever written about psychotherapy relationship. She also served as a faculty member at Antioch University in Los Angeles, and she also teaches creative writing and literature courses. So really exciting. And she served as an editor of Two Oaks Quarterly. Among other courses, she has developed the Trauma Mentor memoir, and she also had Lolita and Literary Sisters, and a representative of childhood in literature. So as an independent editor, she has worked with a number of authors. And so we are really excited to have you at today. Deborah, welcome to Bookish Talk.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I didn't know you were going to show my little trailer from my book. That was kind of fun to see that again.
It was great, Deborah. Oh my gosh. I have so many questions for you, which we don't have all the time for today. But, our vision here at Bookish Talk is to encourage, enlighten, and to empower 5 million people to write their story. And we realize, based on the growth of Book Talk, that young people are ready, which we're super excited about. How can publishers reach this generation?
I think that publishers are starting to realize that they really need to look for different kinds of authors, that they really need to be publishing more people of color, that they need to be publishing younger writers. I think that they are getting the message. It took a while, but I think they are getting the message. And a lot of editors, I know that when I was looking for a publisher for Don't Go Crazy Without Me, a lot of the editors that I encountered at the big publishing houses were very young. So I think that their taste is probably shifting and they're getting it.
Deborah.
Hi, Devin.
Oh my gosh. So, okay, for those at home, I am a graduate of Antioch. And so I knew Deborah years ago. So it's wonderful to see you. Welcome. I know that you've got all that. It's great to have you. So Deborah, you just like me wrote about our family, which is, our fathers were charming and challenging. What was it like for you to write such an intensely personal story and then having to explore making changes to that story, the writing of it, with an editor or a bunch of editors to make these changes? How did that hit you?
Well, and I had a couple of editors along the way. So as you were speaking earlier, I hired an editor that I worked with on the recommendation of Mark Doty. He recommended a gentleman named David Groff in New York, who's wonderful, who really went through and looked at things like narrative flow, who looked at things like tension. Is there enough tension? Weighting of material. And I wound up having to throw out, I have drawers. If I could turn the camera this way, you would see drawers and drawers of material that I had to take out of the book. I had a whole chapter on being in the drive-in with my boyfriend that I was very attached to because I really liked being in the drive-in with my boyfriend. And I had to lose that. That became 2 paragraphs. And I had a lot more material about kindergarten and about the neighbors. And some of that work I was able to publish as individual pieces in literary journals. So it wasn't completely lost. But I think you have to listen to an editor. If you trust your editor, you have to listen to the editor. And eventually you see the wisdom of what they're recommending. You may not see it initially. And then when I work as an editor, so I'm on the other side too, I know what that's like. I know what that feels like to think you're all done and you present the book to an editor and the editor is like, nah. Yeah. So, it's a painful process. There's no way around that it's not painful and challenging and a tough process. And sometimes you have to be ruthless. And who was it who said, kill your darlings? You have to kill your darlings. I could have written a whole book about kindergarten. At one point, I thought this book would just be about kindergarten. And I had to take out a lot of those wonderful kindergarten episodes. And I had a lot of episodes about the neighborhood that I had to take out because the focus really needed to be on my relationship with my dad, is what I heard from editors. So that's where the book is now. And now, of course, it all makes sense.
So if you were speaking to a new book author, and I know we have several more questions coming up and a limited amount of time, and they were going to get an editor for a first book, what would you suggest? It would be a mindset. How would you place them in that place to get an editor?
I think so. The way I work, I'm a developmental editor, so I do a deep edit. And what I always suggest with clients who come to me is let's look at the first 50 pages. Because that's basically what an agent is going to look at. An agent is not going to get beyond the first 50 pages if they're not working. So let's do a circumscribed period of time. Let me look at the first 50 pages. Let me give you notes. And then let's see if this relationship is a fit. Let's see if the notes I'm giving you are helpful. Let's see if the direction that I think the book needs to go in is a direction that you think it needs to go in. So we have sort of a little bit of a trial run and then can recalibrate. I don't think you should ever entrust somebody with your whole book before you see what their work looks like in the early pages, or maybe if you're most concerned about the ending, let them read the ending first, but don't just throw over your 250-page book to somebody that you don't have some experience working with. And go to, there's a lot of people out there who say they're editors that I don't think are really qualified to be editors. I am members of a group called LA Editors and Writers Group, where we actually vet our members and we only let certain people in. And you can go to our website and probably find, I'm not sure how many members we have now, like 20 something. These are people who are all experienced, who've all been vetted by other editors, who are all trustworthy. So, the cheapest is not always the best. That's one thing. I mean, unfortunately, really good editors are not cheap necessarily, but we also work a lot faster.
Deborah, I have a question for you. I want to take you back in time. So get in my time machine with me, if you will.
Okay, Paula.
I love hearing where you are right now, because I can tell that you are such a seasoned writer, and even when you're talking about editing. But for someone who is just starting, how would you inspire them? And even more so, what did you overcome in terms of challenges to write your first book?
I overcame a million, psychological challenges, concrete challenges. It took me a very long time to write my first book. I thought that I could just sort of translate the professional literature that therapists had into language for lay people. And I found out that I had to do much more original research, and fell down many rabbit holes along the way. To new writers, I would say you just need to write. You need to read really good books, and you just need to keep writing, and don't be afraid to submit. And rejections are part of the game. I mean, I probably had 100 rejections before I got an acceptance. So don't be afraid of rejection, and also form a writer's group. I've always been in a writer's group. I've been in a writer's group for like 30 years. And some of the members have changed over time, but find other people that you think you're like-minded. Maybe you're working in the same genre. Maybe you're at the same stage in your career, and share your writing with one another and get other eyes on it as quickly as you can, and not your brother's eyes or your sister's eyes or somebody who's just going to tell you what you want to hear, but people who will give you useful critique and support, so that when you send out work, there's somebody and you get a rejection and you feel really lousy, you have somebody you can go to who will prop you back up and say, no, send it out 5 more times to 5 more places.
So much fantastic advice. Thank you so much for taking a minute to answer that question. I appreciate it. Marie, I know that you have a question for Deborah too.
Yeah, I have a question for you, Deborah. We've been discussing about choosing a book title and writing techniques extensively in our recent episode of Bookish. And I just wanted to have your view, your advice on that.
I had probably 5 or 6 titles before I came to the final title for my book. My last book, Don't Go Crazy Without Me. I think brainstorming is really good with titles. I think brainstorming with a group is a good idea. I think what you want your title to reflect is something that's sort of central at the core of your book, and something that will stick in people's minds. So at one point, my book was called Tell Me I'm Still Breathing, because that was something my dad used to say to me when I was a kid. Tell me you're still breathing. He'd wake me up in the middle of the night. Tell me you're still breathing. Tell me you're still breathing. You've just terrified me, Dad, but okay. And then it wound up Don't Go Crazy Without Me, which was something else that I felt like I was saying to him and that he was saying to me. So you want your title to have some like resonance. Mm-hmm. And titles are really important. Titles really stick in readers' minds. So I really believe in brainstorming. I was just brainstorming in my writer's group with another writer about what the final title of her book should be. She's had a working title that she's now not totally happy with. So I think being really creative, be really open-minded, and know that your publisher may come up with a totally different title than the title that you are very attached to. And sometimes your publisher knows best, and sometimes you need to push back.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Deborah, thank you so much for being here with us today, for answering all of our questions. I know that you have so much knowledge for both beginning writers and seasoned ones alike. So your personal journey is very, very important to me and to everyone who's watching. When we come back from break, we're going to share our book recommendations for the Bookish Club. So join us in just a minute. Stay tuned.
Thank you.
Ralph Waldo Emerson stated, "Unless you try to do something beyond what you've already mastered, you will never grow." Encourage, enlighten, empower.
Brian Tracy once said that optimism is the one quality most associated with success and happiness more than any other. Courage, enlighten, and power.
And welcome back to Bookish. This segment is our Bookish Club, where every week we give our personal recommendations for inspiring, incredible books that are worth your time to explore, with the mission of encouraging you to expand genres and reading all kinds of things. So we're going to start with a new group of books, and stay with us. So Murray, what do you got for us this week?
Oh, I got something very, very good. So The Obstacle is the Way is the book that I recommend this week. And it's a book that actually carried me at times when I was really low in my life. And it's a very, very inspiring book, but also very, how can I say it? Very, it teaches you several things, It teach you the discipline of your thought. It teach you the discipline of your action, and also help you to see opportunities in the challenges that you go through. So really a good book to help you to shift your mindset, a good book to help you to be positive, to stay positive, and look at your obstacle as an opportunity for you to step into your power and really empower you to understand that you are in control, and you shouldn't lose faith, and always be hopeful and grateful for what's happening to you. So I'm just going to share a short chapter here. This thing is in front of you, this issue, this obstacle, this frustration, unfortunate, problematic, unexpected problem preventing you from doing what you want to do. That thing you dread or secretly hope will never happen. What if it wasn't so bad? So really giving you an opportunity to look at a different perspective and not just go straight away into the negative rhetoric and thinking about the worst that's going to happen to you. So that's really what I want to share today. And I know it's going to inspire a lot of the listeners if they go and read the book, especially now with everything that is happening. So that's the book for this week.
Thank you, Murray. Linda, what do you got for us?
Yeah, first, I love that, Marie. I haven't heard of that book, so thanks so much for sharing that with us. Today, the book that I'm talking about is Escape the Tutoring Trap. I think that many of us can agree that teachers are overworked and underpaid. And this book here, it really taps into, becoming a tutor and making more money and making a greater impact. When we're going through life and we have our teachers in our worlds, what are they doing to help us further? And with this book here, what I love about it is Kahila Silvas, she takes you on this path of how you can realize that you can actually make a greater impact through tutoring. So I'll just read just a really brief portion of it. And it starts off with a little question. Are you available to tutor my son, Michael? He has an exam next week, and we just found out he's sitting at 46%, but needs 86% to pass. I heard many good things about you from our friends. You tutor Cole, and they said that you can help Michael. Please let me know if you can see him a few times before his exam next week. oftentimes what happens is parents get in this state of mind that, oh my God, my child needs help right away. So they'll go look for a tutor. But are they finding the tutor that can really help their child? And so again, this book, what I love about it is that it really helps you to see the path to becoming a tutor that is going to be one that, again, not only that you're making a greater impact, but that you can make more money, make the money that matches the impact you're making. I truly, my sister is a teacher, my brother's a principal at a school, and I truly believe that they work really, really hard and they don't make the money that reflects it. So this book is going to help you get there.
Thank you so much, Linda. My book is, I don't know if you can see that between the glare, Haroun and the Sea of Stories by Salman Rushdie, who is probably, in my opinion, one of the greatest writers of the modern age. Let me just read a little bit from this. This is sort of like right from the beginning. There once in the country of Aleph Bay, a sad city, the saddest of cities, a city so ruinously sad that it had forgotten its name. It stood by a mournful sea full of glum fish, which were so miserable to eat that they made people belch with melancholy, even though the skies were blue. In the north of the sad city stood mighty factories in which, so I'm told, sadness was actually manufactured, packaged, and sent all over the world, which never seemed to get enough of it. Black smoke poured out of the chimneys of the sadness factories and hung over the city like bad news. So this is a children's book, sort of. So yes, I read it for my daughter. It's filled with really remarkable imagery. I think personally, Salman Rushdie is one of the, just in terms of turning a sentence, this guy knows how to write wonderfully. And here's really the other part of the reason why I want to share this book is that he wrote a book called Satanic Verses, and it got him into a lot of trouble. So much trouble he went into hiding. And really what this book is about, Haroun and the Sea of Stories, is what do you do when somebody has taken away your ability to tell stories? Well, you write a thinly veiled story about not being able to tell stories directed to children. And so it really is kind of, for me, not only is it remarkable writing and a good story, but it's also really sort of like the context in which he wrote it was something that was really quite remarkable. So anyway, I highly recommend all of Salman Rushdie's books. He's a wonderful writer. And let's see what we got going this week with Paula.
Oh my gosh. I'm over here going, and that one, and that one, and that one. And my list is growing every week. So this is actually a picture of the guided journal that goes with my book, The Untethered Soul, which is by Michael A. Singer. This has been just such a crucial and pivotal part of my own journey in getting out of the doing and the logical piece of just growing as a human, and as that pertains to building a business as well. So you can really apply this in every way. It really is about changing your relationship with your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions. And I want to share just a brief snippet from the book so that you can get an understanding of what I mean. So in this chapter, which is actually chapter 10, Stealing Freedom for Your Soul, it starts with the prerequisite to true freedom is to decide that you do not want to suffer anymore. You must decide that you want to enjoy your life and that there is no reason for stress, inner pain, or fear. Every day we bear a burden that we should not be bearing. We fear that we are not good enough or that we will fail. We experience insecurity, anxiety, and self-consciousness. We fear that people will turn on us, take advantage of us, or stop loving us. And all of these things burden us tremendously. As we try to have open and loving relationships, as we try to succeed and express ourselves, there is an inner weight that we carry. And so this entire book is about getting out of your head and really living from your heart. It has really opened up my eyes from living in a world where I was in corporate America for 20 years to seeing a completely different way of living that has allowed me to expand my mind and my own relationship with myself. So I highly, highly recommend it. Tim, I can't wait to hear what you have for us.
Very interesting. My book that I am introducing is Forgiving Our Parents, Forgiving Ourselves. It's like we're in a theme here of mental health, starting with Deborah's conversation. In my effort to figure out how to bring couples together for life in my marriage book, one of the things that I've discovered is the most significant influence in a marriage is the relationship with the parents. The only reason why I could say I have solved the marriage problem is because I forgave my parents when I was 25 years old. It turns out that we are supposed to be born twice. The first is obvious, is biologically, but we're also supposed to be born psychologically into adulthood. And that's what happens when you go through that process of forgiving your parents. Let me just read you a quick excerpt from the description of the book. Readers will explore family patterns that perpetuate dysfunction by constructing a psychological family tree that will uncover family secrets and habits that have shaped their adult identity. As they develop a greater understanding of their family of origin, they will be able to take the essential step of forgiveness, releasing themselves from the chain of past to live in freedom and wholeness. Forgiving our parents, forgiving ourselves gives readers the power to become unstuck from behaviors that hurt themselves and those they love, changing their hearts so that they can change their lives forever. One of the things that I realize is this is one of the most profound concepts when you're going through, say, therapy or psychological development. In fact, of all the research I did in writing my book, I actually had not found forgiveness mentioned in any of the relationship books that I read. Because at the end of the day, a balanced ego is not when you're better than anybody else. It's when you're better than you used to be. That is the major step we're all trying to figure out in this age of individuality. And the only way you can do that, you saw it in Deborah's story, you saw it in Paula's description, the only way for us to do that is for us to be able to cut those ties from our past that we use to define ourselves so that we can ultimately learn to define ourselves. So a very profound book in the psychological world, particularly when it comes to successful relationships. So I love that book, and I hope you guys enjoy reading it.
Great call, Tim. Anyway, Bookish will be back in a couple moments.
An enlightening quote by Albert Einstein: "Strive not to be a success, but to be of value." Encourage, enlighten, empower.
An empowering quote from Nelson Mandela stated, "The greatest glory in life lies not in never failing, but rising every time you fall." Encourage, enlighten, empower.
We can't hear you, Paula.
Thank you. Well, we hope that you are encouraged not to limit yourself to one literary category, because you absolutely do not know what you don't know. You might have a passion to read, but if you've only had limited exposure to specific types of literature, you may end up reading or writing in a genre that really doesn't suit your skills or open up your mind. Reading from all of these different literary categories is going to allow you to find out where you truly belong.
Beautiful, Paula. Anyway, to our wonderful audience, thank you for joining us again at Bookish Talk. We sincerely hope that something we've said encouraged, enlightened, and empowered you to begin your journey to write your legacy book. To be sure to join our Bookish Club and begin the journey to journal. Tune in next week when we'll share some tips on different publishing options that are available. Visit our website at www.thrivingwomen.com and subscribe and leave a question or two in our live chat. Thanks so much for being with us. And from all of us here at Bookish Talk, we'll see you next week.
See you then.